was literally just like camping and waiting, stabbed him in the chest, and he was driving himself to the hospital. I just don't want my family to think I'm a monster. Hello, everybody. Hello. Okay, so we are back with a second video on this channel, and we have no little like fluffy mic cover, which I still have it, and I'll be kind of doing some triggers throughout, but very subtle. We have two shorter stories. I say they're shorter, but we'll see how quickly I can get through them. I'm gonna try really hard not to breathe in the mic, but it's kind of hard, so I might end up putting that back on. We'll see. But since it's Christmas week, both of the cases are things that happened on Christmas Day. So I'm just gonna jump right in, and the first one I'm going to be talking about is actually set in 1929. I'm gonna put this on. Okay. Hello. Okay, I put the little fluffy mic cover back on. I was feeling like I was holding my breath because I was blowing into the mic so much. Anyway, I don't want to chat a bunch at the beginning. So, like I said, December 25th, Christmas Day, 1929, in Germantown, North Carolina. On this day, there was a man that was basically out for blood, and it was the morning of December 25th when Marie Lawson, 17 years old, woke up to bake a cake or some sort of like dessert for like later festivities. Her younger sisters Carrie and Maybelle, they were 12 and 7, were on their way to visit, I believe it was their aunt and uncle, just like a nearby relative, walking distance, super close. And basically, like, to give you some reference, this family lives on like a large tobacco farm. So basically the man was in a tobacco barn that was on this property, and he was literally just like camping and waiting, and he ended up seeing Carrie and Maybelle on their way to their aunt and uncle's house. And once Carrie and Maybelle came into view of this man, he whipped out his 12-gauge shotgun and opened fired on them. So he killed both Carrie and Maybelle. And because he couldn't tell if the girls were actually dead, he ended up bludgeoning them. I'm gonna have to assume like either like with his bare hands or with like the end of the gun. I'm not really sure, but that's my best guess. So 37-year-old Fanny is the mother of the girl, all of these girls so far that I have discussed, and she was basically just minding her own business, sitting out on her front porch, and he opened fired on Fanny as well, and she was killed instantly, and that was with the same 12-gauge shotgun. So the man now goes into the house, and like now there's other children in the house, and so it's very like obvious that something bad is going on. So the kids inside the house had to have been like so horrified. I can't even imagine. But the man enters and finds Marie, who we know she was baking for Christmas, and she's 17 years old. He wasted no time also shooting and killing her. He continues in through the house, and there are 3 more children in the house. James and Raymond, 4 years old and 2 years old, were hiding, and that's when he found them and shot them to death. And finally, the last child was a 4-month-old. Her name was Mary Lou, and she was not shot. He ended up beating her to death with the like butt of his shotgun, which is really terrible. I just like want to cry thinking about that. The man basically walks into the woods and commits suicide. That man's name was Charlie Lawson, and he actually shared the same last name with all of his victims. If you hadn't guessed it yet, yep, he was the wife to Fanny and the father to his 4 daughters, Carrie, Maybelle, Marie, and Mary Lou, and 2 of his 3 sons, James and Raymond. And if you got that, there's a 3rd son, Arthur, 16 years old. He was actually off running errands at the time, so he skipped out on the family Christmas mass murder. We're gonna talk about that in a little bit, but I just wanted to bring that up right now. So there's obviously lots of like speculation on why that Charlie did this. Some kind of like key pieces of information that I want to include are that all of the bodies were found like laying down with something under their heads, whether that was a pillow, or for the 2 girls that were shot outside of the house, Carrie and Maybelle, they were found with rocks under their head, and then their arms were crossed. So Charlie clearly put them in these positions before he went and committed suicide in the woods. So that's one thing to note. And then another thing to note is that people that knew Charlie, so if you remember, there were relatives nearby, and like they had friends and neighbors, of course, they all said that he had a head trauma a few months prior, which was the cause of these unspeakable acts. And like, okay, but like at the same time, what sort of like head trauma that you can just be walking around with, I guess, like makes you, and I might be completely ignorant to this, like, I don't know, but basically I find this so hard to believe, because I tried to do some digging, and then I found this article actually written by someone named Neil Gray. I found it on a Horror Obsessive, and I found that he also like scoured the internet to try to figure out what this like accident was, supposedly, and he couldn't find anything, and he actually found like even some more people like speculating on motive and such. But if you think about it, if some sort of head trauma was so severe that it made you murder your whole family, like there's gonna be a hospital record or something. Like, granted, it's 1929, but whatever. So obviously autopsies were done on everybody, including Charlie. And another point to note here is that there were no brain abnormalities. I don't know about like fractures or anything like that in the actual bone in his skull, but there were at least no brain abnormalities that kind of make you wonder about the head trauma, because like obviously if you have head trauma and you're attributing these horrible unspeakable acts to that, it's because your brain was injured, not just like your skull. So whatever, like regardless of this head trauma or not, like there was more investigations that were like just into Charlie's life, into the Lawson family life, trying to figure out what the heck was going on and why this family was murdered by their once loving husband and father. But there were some rumors and gossip, blah blah blah, about an uncanny relationship between Marie, that's the 17-year-old, that's the one that woke up and was baking that morning, and Charlie. So it was gossip that sexual assault warning. It was gossip that he had raped her, and this was actually heard on multiple occasions. So the first occasion that I discovered that this like was talked about was there was a guest that was like on a tour, apparently on the farm. So I don't know if they must have done lots of tours on the tobacco farm, but basically this guest that went on the tour said that they had heard this. I don't know if they had heard like conversation or what, but they said this. I don't know why a random tour guest would make that up. But also Charlie's niece, which would be the girls' cousins, said she heard directly from Fanny, which is the mother, that there was something strange like between the relationship between Charlie and Marie. So now there's two people saying something strange is going on or was going on between Charlie and his daughter Marie. There was a third, and that's Marie's friend. And Marie's friend said that Marie herself had confessed that she was pregnant with Charlie's baby. Like, and if that was actually true, that should have like been confirmed with an autopsy, right? It would have had to have been. I don't know why I couldn't find that, but I don't know. It was just rumor, you know. But you think that would have been able to be confirmed. But regardless, there ended up being a quote from Charlie saying that there would be some killing done, and if that quote is true, like, that's obviously very damning. I would say if that's true, but obviously these are speculations. He said, she said, like that type of thing. So I mean, it doesn't, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, motive, it doesn't really matter. Like, obviously we want to know, and it gives family peace of mind and stuff, but he clearly did that to his family, and there was clearly some like strange backstory going on as well. But Charlie took his motive to the grave with him, and to me specifically, the head trauma angle, like it like kind of makes sense, but I am very much like, I trust the science, so I don't like the fact that no brain abnormalities were found. I also understand that technology is not anywhere near what it is today, so I just have a very hard time believing that it was brain trauma. I really don't believe that, and there's a lot of people that do, even people who are unrelated to Charlie and have no reason to, you know, back him up or anything. But I really think the incest angle makes sense. Even though it's all gossip and rumor, there are too many people that were saying something was going on, and too specific of stories. But what really frustrates me is the confirmation of Marie's pregnancy or not. So that's, I would assume in 1929 they could do that, right? Like, maybe it just depends how far along you are, but maybe they couldn't. So there's that. And the other thing that I wanted to put at the end of this is that Charlie agreed to have Christmas photos done, and this was like just before Christmas, and people who knew Charlie said that was incredibly abnormal for Charlie. Like, he was a very frugal man, and that was not something that he's normally talked into. And granted, like, okay, he might have been feeling the Christmas spirit a couple days before Christmas and was okay with the photos, or he knew he was gonna kill his whole family. He knew he was gonna kill himself, so it didn't matter if they took Christmas photos. I think it was premeditated because of the Christmas photos. I think the motive was the incest, and I don't think it was head trauma, because I think the Christmas photos are reason enough for me to believe that it was premeditated, which, if you premeditate something, I don't think you can attribute it to head trauma. I don't know, this makes me really frustrated because Charlie took his motive to the grave, and I would like to know, so would so many others. But that is the story of the Lawson family murders on Christmas Day. I'm sure you are just as frustrated with the lack of motive answers, but that is what happens when people take their own lives after their actions. We see the same thing in the Gabby Petito case, unfortunately. Okay, so I'm gonna hop into the other story that I have. I'm doing good with time. This should be like 30 minutes, like I hoped it would be. Okay, so this next story is again set on Christmas Day, or it occurred on Christmas Day. I hate when I say stuff like set on Christmas Day. Like, it was a horrible thing that happened on Christmas Day in 2013. So, in 2005, Connie and Adam Villa, I'm gonna say Villa, were married in 2005. At this point, Connie had a daughter, and her daughter's name was Ania Macias, and her daughter was from a previous marriage. This small family of three lived in Casa Grande, Arizona, and by 2010, this is approximately 5 years after the marriage, Connie and Adam have 3 more children of their own. So 2 years following this, so we're in 2012 now, Adam and Connie divorce, and there is not a documented reason as to why. I'm sure family members know why they're divorcing or were divorcing at this time, but basically the settlements that followed got really, really heated and nasty, and a lot of them stemmed from child custody, which you probably could guess. So, flash forward to our fateful Christmas night, Christmas Day, 2013. We're now within a year of the custody issues, so I know I didn't give a lot of backstory, but there wasn't much other than they got married and it didn't last long. They had 3 kids and now they're getting divorced. So we're Christmas morning 2013, and a 911 call was made by Adam Villa. He basically was reporting that his wife Connie had stabbed him in the chest and he was driving himself to the hospital. Way to go, Adam. That is crazy. I could never do that. Maybe with the adrenaline. I'm sure that it was a lot of adrenaline, but whatever. So, Adam basically was lured to Connie's home, which I don't know. I think it was the home that they used to share previously before all of the divorce things happened, but she lured him over. Whether that was something with the kids, I don't really know. I tried to look into it, I couldn't find much. The police were basically dispatched to the Villa home, and they had to break the door down to get inside. So at this point, all they know is that, okay, Connie stabbed Adam and there's kids, so we need to get inside. And they found Connie literally a bawling, hysterical mess, clutching a knife to her chest, and the police had to calm her down and get her into an ambulance. She was covered in blood. She was injured herself, or I'm not sure at that point they knew she was injured, but because she stabbed somebody else, so it could have been someone else's blood. But it was later found that yes, she was injured, and yes, they were self-inflicted injuries. So she stabbed herself. They were superficial injuries, nothing super serious. And at this point in time, so 2013, the kids are aged 3, 5, 8, and 13. 3, 5, 8, and 13. So the police found the 3 youngest, the 3-year-old, 5-year-old, and 8-year-old very easily. And the children, I don't know, if they're scared, a lack of loyalty to their mom. They're just kids, and they knew something was up, but they immediately shared with the police that their mother forced them to take some sort of pill, and these pills were later found to be opiates, and the amount was not lethal enough for them, so they survived the forcing of medications. And I don't know if you know a lot about opiates. I don't personally. I do know that when I go to the doctor, they have signs that are do not share. If you are given an opiate drug, do not share because the dosage is so specific. prescribed dosage based on all of those things. So you can overdose very easily. That's basically all I know about that. And the police investigated into the house further because there were 4 children and only 3 were found. And they discovered the body of 13-year-old Ania Macias, and it was initially assumed that she had been murdered due to a drug overdose. They didn't see any marks on her body. The other 3 children were saying that their mother may force them to take these pills. So the 3 children they go into the care of relatives, and Adam and Connie are being treated for their wounds, and Ania is taken to have an autopsy done on her. They need to get some answers. And on Sunday the 29th of December, my notes say September, Connie was released and immediately arrested. She had literally no trouble admitting to anything. She basically said that she lured Adam in and she stabbed him, and that she tried to poison her kids with prescription medicine. She then proceeded to tell the police that Ania would not take the prescription medicine. So she's the oldest, and she's like, but she has a little bit more life experience, and she knows this is strange and weird, so she wouldn't take the medicine. So her mother suffocated her with her bare hands, and there weren't even any marks on her. She was able to just suffocate her because she wouldn't take the medicine. And then obviously there's the motive of why she was trying to poison them with prescription medicine anyway. But regardless, the police of course asked this, and that was when she replied, "I was afraid the judge would grant custody of all of the children to my ex-husband." And that was a quote. "I was afraid the judge would grant custody of all the children to my ex-husband." And we actually hear this a lot. It's if you can't have them, nobody, if I can't have them, nobody can, and it really makes no sense. But when I was reading, I have more about this case, but when I was reading this, I think it boils down to her mental state, and she clearly was not in the right state of mind at all. And basically she ended up being charged with premeditated murder, attempted murder on 4 counts, and that would be the 3 kids and Adam, the ex-husband, kidnapping and child abuse. And I really tried to look into the kidnapping charge. I don't know. From what I could tell, she was supposed to have the kids. Maybe she wasn't supposed to have the 3 younger ones. I don't know why the kidnapping was on there. But her defense attorney basically pleads not guilty to all of the charges, even though she had admitted to literally all the crimes, other than the kidnapping. I don't know where that came from. Which, that's just what you do. I guess you just plead not guilty. The death penalty was sought against Connie by the prosecution, and the defense did their best to try to negotiate a lesser sentencing. The prosecution was not about to let that happen. They really did aim for the death penalty, but she did not get the death penalty. She ended up being convicted of all of those crimes that she was charged, that I mentioned above, and ended up being sentenced to 155 and 1/2 years. But she did plead guilty. She ended up pleading guilty to those crimes that I had listed above. And to me, some of the most chilling quotes from this case that came directly from Connie are the following: "I sacrificed everything for them so that they would be happy. And I just don't want my family to think I'm a monster." So there's those. And I mentioned just a little bit ago how I said I think our answers really lie in her mental state, because clearly she's saying some things I don't want people to crazy. I don't want people to think I'm a monster. Did it for the kids. Like, clearly killing them is not doing anything for them. That's literally taking them off the earth. That's ruining their life. That's like, you took their life from them. So I personally think it may have started as like this just like depreciating mental state that if I can't have them, nobody can. And again, I cannot wrap my head around that, why people think that's like a thing, especially with your kids. I get it if you're trying to settle, like, who gets your house, who gets the property, the land, and then like someone going and burning it down because somebody else won, you know? How can you kill your kids because you think that like your ex-husband is gonna get custody of them? It doesn't make sense, and that's why I think a lot of it has to do with her mental state, and that is what a lot of other people think as well. It's a very chilling story. Both of these stories were incredibly chilling. You can let me know what you think motive-wise. I feel like there might be more discussion motive-wise on the Lawson case because there's just a lot more going into that, and there's a lot you could speak on as far as mental things with Charlie Lawson. Maybe he did snap because like, why else would you kill your entire family? But again, yeah, the incest angle, that would be one reason, I suppose. Okay, that is all that I have for you guys. I hope you have a very Merry Christmas. If you don't celebrate, that you have just happy holiday. If you don't do holiday at all, I just hope that you have a good day, good weekend, good week, and that you guys tune in next week. I'm actually going to do a Christmas case next week, I believe, as well. I almost included this case, but there was way too much. It was not like more of a mini story. There was too much to talk about. But I don't know. I don't have anything else to say. But let's just remember, even though we really enjoy listening to these cases, that people really did lose their lives. So make sure we are respectful in our comments and everything, and really just try to remember those that lost their lives. And unfortunately for the, other victims, the people that knew these individuals, Christmas probably is ruined for them.